Restoring the appointed times. We will cover 4 main topics with varying details in between. Passover, the moon, Rome, and returning to YAHUAH. There has been a shift over time, not just in religion, not just in culture, but in how people count time itself. And when time is altered, what is built on that time is altered also. The appointed times, the feasts, the order of worship, the pattern YAHUAH gave from the beginning. What most of the world follows today is not the seasons that begin with the signs YAHUAH placed in creation. It is the timing of empires, time set by the ruling powers. It is the creation of wicked men. And Scripture warned us that such things would arise. Daniel 7:25 says, "And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws." That is a serious warning. A power would arise that would think to change times and laws. When you look at history, Rome did exactly that in the public order of the world. Rome reshaped civil time. Rome imposed its pagan calendar structure that later went into the rest of Europe. Rome shaped the way nations counted days, and the church ordered worship in public life. Then later, through imperial and church power, ancient Rome continued to influence the reckoning the world follows as Europe and America absorbed its culture. So we should not treat the changing of time as some small matter. Scripture already told us that changing times would be part of the work of worldly power. YAHUAH already told us where the time reckoning for his people is supposed to begin. Genesis 1:14 says, "And Elohim said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and years." That means the reckoning of time was tied to creation. It was tied to the lights in the firmament of the heavens. Time was not supposed to be detached from the witnesses YAHUAH appointed. One of those witnesses is the moon. The scriptural month is tied to renewal. The word Chodesh points to newness, renewal, beginning. That means the month does not begin at fullness. It begins at renewal. And this is why YAHUAH said in Exodus 12:2, "This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you." So the beginning of months was established by YAHUAH, not by Rome, not by tradition, and not by the fixed systems of men. Now some people will go to Psalm 81:3 and try to argue that fullness is the beginning. It says, "Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the full moon, on our solemn feast day." That is commonly found in the ESV and other versions that provide mistranslation, also without giving context. The children of Israel left Egypt during the 14th day of a lunar month, which would have been a full moon. When we actually look at the Hebrew, the verse first says, "Ba-chodesh," at the new moon. That word is chodesh, the word tied to renewal, new moon, and the beginning of the month. Then later in that same verse it says, "Kehise," pointing to the fullness or appointed feast time. From the root word of keza describes a wide range of covering actions: literal, ritual, relational, protective, and judicial. So the verse is not saying that the full moon is the new moon. It is giving both points in order. First, the new moon. Then, the feast at fullness within that cycle. That is why Psalm 81:3 does not overthrow the pattern found throughout Scripture. It actually confirms it. The month begins with renewal. The feast arrives later in the cycle at fullness. And that is why Sirach 43 is so important. Listen carefully to how it describes the moon. Sirach 43:6-8 says, "He made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times, and a sign of the world. From the moon is the sign of feasts, a light that decreaseth in her perfection." The month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven. That settles the matter if we listen carefully. The moon is a declaration of times. The month is called after her, and she is described as increasing wonderfully in her changing. That means the moon does not begin in perfection. It grows into it. So fullness is not the start. Fullness is the result of growth within an already established cycle. Just as in life, the peak is not infancy or old age, so the fullness of the moon is not its beginning or its end. Infancy is the beginning. Maturity is the peak. Old age is the decline. Then we are returned to YAHUAH. The moon follows the same order: beginning, growth, fullness, decline, renewal. So when the moon reaches fullness, that does not prove the month began there. It proves the month began earlier and was counted correctly. Fullness is the witness, not the beginning. And this lines up perfectly with Passover. Passover is on the 14th day of the month. That is when the moon reaches fullness in the middle of the cycle. So the full moon at Passover is not the origin of the month. It is the confirmation that the month was rightly begun and rightly counted. That is why the order matters so much. The month begins with renewal. The feast arrives at fullness. And the fullness bears witness that the beginning was kept correctly.